That night was spoken about for years, whispered in corners and repeated with fear in every home, because it was the night when a poor, innocent girl named Nazia was forced by circumstances to stay under the roof of the man everyone called the most terrifying Arab sheikh in the region. His name alone was enough to make strong men lower their voices. Stories about him were dark, exaggerated, and frightening. People said his heart was made of stone, that he showed no mercy, that anyone who crossed him never returned the same. No one truly knew him, yet everyone believed they did. Nazia belonged to a small village on the edge of the desert. Life there was simple but cruel to those without power. Her father had died years ago, leaving her mother sick and weak. Death slowly wrapped itself around their house like a snake. One evening, the village elder came with news that shook Nazia's world. The sheikh, owner of vast lands and the only man who could clear their debt, had agreed to help, but on one condition. Nazia would have to spend the night in his guest house to serve as a helper, nothing more, he claimed. But the village had heard enough rumors to turn that condition into a nightmare. Nazia's mother cried and begged, but there was no other way. Hunger and debt are fears stronger than gossip. With a trembling heart and silent tears, Nazia agreed. That night, as she walked toward the sheikh's enormous house, every step felt heavier than the last. The walls were high, the gates iron, and the guards silent like statues. The moon hung low in the sky, watching as if it too was afraid. Inside, everything was quiet. No shouting, no anger, no cruelty, just silence. Nazia was taken to a small, clean room and told to rest. She expected harsh words, cold looks, or something worse, but none came. Hours passed slowly, every sound made her heart race. Finally, she heard footsteps. The door opened, and the sheikh himself stood there. He was tall, his beard silver, his eyes deep and unreadable. This was the man the village feared. Yet his voice was calm when he spoke. He asked her name, her age, and about her family. Nazia answered softly, her hands shaking. He listened without interrupting. Then, to her shock, he told her to eat, to rest, and not to fear. "You are safe here," he said, and left. The night went on. No harm came to her. Instead, servants checked if she needed water or food. The sheikh never returned. Nazia barely slept, her mind filled with confusion. Was this all a lie? Had the village been wrong? Or was something worse waiting for the morning? At dawn, the call to prayer echoed through the house. Nazia rose, exhausted but unharmed. She was given breakfast and told she could leave. Before she did, the sheikh asked her to come to the main hall. Her heart pounded as she entered, expecting some final demand. Instead, he placed a small document on the table. "This is the paper clearing your family's debt," he said. "And this is some money for your mother's treatment and your education." Nazia could not speak. Tears rolled down her face. She gathered the courage to ask the question that burned inside her. "Why does everyone fear you so much?" The sheikh sighed, a long, tired sigh. "Because fear is easier than truth. I do not correct them. Those who come to me in need see who I really am." When Nazia returned to the village that morning, people gathered around her. They searched her face for signs of trauma, fear, or shame. Whispers filled the air. Some looked at her with pity, others with judgment. Finally, someone asked the question everyone feared to hear the answer to. "What happened last night?" Nazia took a deep breath. Her voice was clear, steady, and louder than anyone expected. "The sheikh is a good man. His character is noble, and his heart is kinder than those who judge him." That single sentence fell like thunder. The village froze. Some laughed in disbelief, others argued, but Nazia did not change her words. She told them everything: how she was respected, how she was protected, how her debt was forgiven without humiliation. Silence followed. Slowly, shame replaced fear. The same people who spread terrifying stories now lowered their heads. They realized how easily lies grow when no one dares to question them. In the days that followed, the village changed. People began to speak of the sheikh differently. Some even went to him for help and returned with stories similar to Nazia's. The man once known as a monster became a symbol of silent generosity. As for Nazia, she returned to her simple life, but nothing was the same. She continued her education, her mother received treatment, and hope entered their home again. She learned a lesson that night, one that would stay with her forever. True fear is often born from ignorance, and true strength lies in compassion, not power. Years later, whenever someone mentioned the most frightening sheikh, Nazia would smile softly. She knew the truth. And all it took was one honest sentence, spoken at dawn, to shake an entire village and break the chains of fear built on lies. In the weeks after that morning, the village slowly returned to its routines, but something invisible had shifted. People still worked in the fields, still gathered at the well, still prayed side by side, yet the old certainty with which they judged others had cracked. Nazia felt it every time she walked past a group of women who suddenly fell quiet, or when men who once avoided her now nodded with respect. Her single sentence had not only defended one man, it had exposed the village's habit of building monsters out of rumors. Nazia herself struggled to understand everything that had happened. At night, she would sit beside her mother, listening to her steady breathing, and replay the Sheikh's calm voice in her mind. The fear she had carried for years felt foolish now, but it had been real, powerful enough to control her steps. She realized how easily fear becomes truth when repeated often enough. This thought disturbed her more than the night itself. One afternoon, as Nazia returned from the market, a messenger arrived at her door. He carried a sealed envelope marked with the Sheikh's emblem. Her hands trembled as she opened it, half expecting new trouble. Instead, the letter was brief and respectful. The Sheikh invited her to visit his estate again, this time in daylight, to discuss her education and future plans. There was no command in the words, only an offer. The village reacted instantly. Some urged her to refuse, afraid that the old rumors might yet prove true. Others encouraged her to go, saying this was a chance few girls ever received. Nazia listened quietly, then made her decision. Fear had ruled her once, she would not let it do so again. The estate looked different under the sun. The high walls no longer seemed threatening, and the guards greeted her politely. Inside, gardens stretched wide, filled with palm trees and flowing water. The Sheikh met her in an open courtyard, not in shadows but in clear light. He asked about her studies, her interests, her dreams. No one had ever asked her such questions before. He explained that he had built a small school near the desert for children who had no access to education, especially girls. He wanted Nazia to study there and later help teach others, if she wished. Knowledge, he said, is the strongest answer to fear. Nazia felt a mix of gratitude and responsibility. This was no longer just about her. Accepting his offer meant stepping into a larger world, one where her actions could shape others' lives. After a moment of silence, she agreed. When she returned home, her mother wept, not from fear, but from pride. The village watched as Nazia began traveling daily to the school. At first, people whispered again, unsure of her growing closeness to the Sheikh's world. But as months passed, the whispers softened. Children came home reciting lessons. Mothers spoke of daughters who now dreamed of more than survival. Still, not everyone accepted the change. One man in particular, a wealthy trader who had long benefited from the village's ignorance, felt threatened. He had spread many of the original rumors about the Sheikh, using fear to keep people dependent on him. Nazia's story, and the school, weakened his control. Quietly, he began working to revive the old lies. One evening, a false story spread like wildfire. The Sheikh planned to take village land and force families to leave. Panic returned, sharper than before. People forgot Nazia's words and clung to their old terror. Crowds gathered, angry and confused, demanding answers. Nazia stood at the edge of the crowd, her heart heavy. She recognized the familiar pattern, fear rising faster than truth. This time, however, she did not wait for morning. She walked forward and asked the people to come with her to the Sheikh himself. The journey was tense. Faces were tight with suspicion, hands clenched in anger. When they reached the estate, the Sheikh listened patiently as accusations were thrown at him. He did not interrupt, did not raise his voice. When the noise finally died down, he spoke simply. He produced documents showing that the land was legally protected and that his plans involved building wells and clinics, not taking homes. Then he did something unexpected. He invited the trader to speak. Caught off guard, the trader stumbled. Under questioning, his lies unraveled. The crowd watched in silence as the truth emerged. Anger shifted direction, turning into shame. That night, as people returned home, Nazia realized how fragile trust is and how easily it can be broken, but also how it can be rebuilt with patience and honesty. The Sheikh thanked her privately. Courage, he told her, is not the absence of fear. It is choosing truth despite it. Years passed. Nazia grew into a respected teacher, guiding young minds that once would have been lost to poverty and silence. The village prospered slowly, not through sudden miracles, but through steady change. Fear no longer ruled every decision. People asked questions. They listened. The sheikh remained a quiet presence, helping without demanding praise. Some still called him frightening, out of habit more than belief, but the word lost its power. It became a shadow of the past, a reminder of who they once were. On the anniversary of that first night, Nazia stood before her students and told them a story, not of terror, but of misunderstanding, of how one sentence spoken with honesty can break years of lies. She did not name herself as the girl in the story. She wanted them to see that such courage was not unique, that anyone could speak truth if they chose. As the sun set over the desert, Nazia felt a quiet peace. The night that once threatened to destroy her had instead given her purpose. And the morning that shook a village had grown into a future where fear no longer had the final word.